Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next artist is a singer-songwriter with roots down in Missouri. Turning poetry into songs for several years, she illustrates the perfect picture with every track. Welcome, Matteson.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you. I
Thank
always like to
you.
start with where your kind of music timeline all kicked off.
Yeah, I think I just remember music being a part of my life even since I was like little. My dad was in various bands growing up. So like there's old home videos you can see of me like crawling to the guitars or like crawling to the pianos and stuff. I think, it probably all just started there, but we would also like do family karaoke nights. So it was, music was always just there and it was always something that I loved doing. I didn't really like start like writing songs until I learned guitar, which was around the age of 12. And even then I didn't really pursue a career, like release any music until like I didn't release my first song until 2019 just because I wanted like I think I was still trying to figure out like who I was as an artist and I think also kind of gaining the confidence too, but that's kind of where my timeline kind of goes from around that time. So,
Yeah, I mean, it is
yeah.
always easier with an instrument in hand, I will admit that.
Yes.
If you have the actual like direct access to some sort of creative thing within that space, it's always a nice to have. I will never
Yeah.
understand the people that can just write songs without like being like a musician as well. I'm just like, where do you like how do you know like how the notes are gonna all work together? I'm like, if I don't have
Yeah.
a piano or guitar at hand, it's not happening. The lyrics might come
Yeah.
together, but the actual like idea, you just can't. I just can't. So
Yeah.
props to those people. But so
Yes.
with the songwriting and everything, what was it that kind of made you want to take a step and like, at the point of I want to put this out, I want to do the things, I want it to be this is my song, this is my name underneath it. Like what kind of made you say it's more than just writing and screwing around on the guitar.
Mhm.
It's really like something I want to do.
Yeah. I think it wasn't until like I always say I was like the shy girl in school. Like probably no one knew who I was. I just like did what I had to do and stuff. But I got the chance, my choir director, for my senior year, there was supposed to be a senior showcase. And so I asked my mom that I would perform a song for that senior showcase. Well, long story short, the senior showcase didn't have enough people to sign up, so it got canceled.
Mm.
So my choir director, he like pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, I know you've worked really hard." He's like, "We have a school assembly coming up. Would you want to sing this song in front of the whole school?" And I was like, me being shy, like no one knows who I am. I'm just like, well, how am I supposed to do this and stuff? But like, my mom, she's like, Maddie, you're a senior, like, do it. Like, it's fine. You're going to be gone after this. And that moment when I sang in front of everyone, it was the most, like, I'll never forget that because it was the first time I actually was like singing something that I wrote from a very personal place. And I was playing it for publicly.
Hmm.
And everyone, like, it was crazy because like everyone would like cheer and I had people coming up to me being like, oh my gosh, that was so great, like I loved that, like what was your like everyone, that was probably the turning point to where I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I think just having people come up and be like, man, I connected with that, that was so cool and stuff, like that was just a very surreal moment for me. And that really drove me to be like, okay, like this is what I want to do. And from there, I continued to write songs. And then um, I eventually found a producer in Nashville that I got along with great. And I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Let's record music. Let's start releasing and stuff. So I think that was really the pivotal moment of me deciding to do this.
I mean, if you do something kind of out on going out on a limb and you
Yeah.
get this huge response that you would have never anticipated, what's going to stop you from just like
Yeah.
chasing after that feeling? You know what I mean? Like there's no
Yeah.
reason why
Yeah.
you should have ever stopped, you know? Like that's just
Yeah.
like just
Mhm.
the impact that that kind of situation can have on your like experience, and to really like be able to tie the journey that you've taken now back to one specific ish moment, like it's kind of crazy, you know? Like it's not just
Yeah.
like, oh, like this was just kind of what was like, we've just been trotting along. It was like, no, flip that switch and we're running, dude. Like
Yeah.
that's what's happened here, which is like, I mean, it's always interesting getting the
Mhm.
answers to those questions, because some people are just like, like I kept writing music and it was just that just felt like the next step. But it's like I love the stories where it's just like this is just something that just happened, and then we just, whether we were intending for that to happen or not, it did, and we went with it. So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Thank
um
you.
what do you think most often inspires your songwriting?
I feel like it's such a basic answer, but I feel like life. Life, of course, but I think especially too, I think I've always been very much of like a people watcher, not in a creepy way, but in a not in a creepy way, guys. Like, I'm not stalking. Um, but very much in a way where like I'm just very intrigued by people. Like
Hmm.
I'm always amazed at like what people can do, what people are, just how they think and everything. So I've always really just been inspired by that. And I've recently kind of said that like I strive to create music that makes people feel less alone in this world. I feel
Hmm.
like music has such a strong impact on people. And I always say it's like something I feel when I go to concerts. It's, you could have a different opinion from the person sitting next to you in the seats, but you guys are still singing at the top of your lungs this song. We're all here for
Facts.
like the same thing.
Right.
And it's an amazing thing. And that's kind of what I strive to do with my music. I write about happy times. I write about life. I want to write to inspire people to know that they're not alone in this. Like, and I've been there too. I've felt loss. I've felt pain. I think we all have in a way, and happiness and all that stuff, It's um yeah, that's kind of what inspires me the most.
I mean, life do be like that sometimes. It do not
Yeah.
always be the best of times.
No.
So I mean, I don't know about you, but I find it's a lot easier to write about the not so fun times of life than it is to write about the
It's
enjoyable
so
times. Because if
true.
you're enjoying life, it's just like, why stop and do any writing? Like, let me just live in this experience. But it's like the other one. It's like, okay, I'm gonna write about it, so then maybe it goes away. You know,
Yeah. Yeah,
it's just
that's
kind
so
of
true.
like, okay, it came, it saw, it conquered, and now it can move on. um
Yeah.
but do you think that you do you ever like try and write from like you said, people watching in a respectful manner?
Yes.
We're not committing any sort of like weird suspicious behavior here.
Yes.
But in a um acceptable people watching way, do you ever like take on other people's like perspectives on things? Do you ever like think about it in a way of like, I'm not necessarily writing about like necessarily your own experience or anything like that, but just like somebody else's either experience, or try and take a different point of view on maybe an experience that you've had yourself? Or is it always just kind of a, this is what's going on, these are like, it's like, do you get what I'm asking?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
like I think for me, like I think most of the time, like I will try, like I think majority of the time it is kind of from like my own perspective. But then
Hmm.
there does come a point in time where I do, like, even if there's like a situation where, you can think one way, you see it one way, and then maybe there's someone else that kind of brings a shine of light to the other sort of half of that situation. And you're like, oh, wow, that's like, I never would have thought of it like that. And
Mm.
so I think a lot of the times, like, then I try to, it kind of gets my brain going and I start like thinking and I'm like, oh, wow, okay, like, yeah, I'm going to kind of write from this. And, and there have been times where it's like I've had people I know and love who have gone through things, and I've kind of, even though I don't know all the details, it may be like, made up details. I'll kind of try to write from their perspective based on maybe something they've said, or um, just something they felt, and even sometimes just the most common phrases can kind of spark um, inspiration
Mm-hmm.
from what I found, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that cliches and sayings and stuff like that are sayings. Is it's just one of those things where it's like, well, some of them are just like you say it and you're like, I know what it means, but like I don't know where the heck it
Yeah.
came from. But other ones
Hmm.
are like, there's a reason. Like every rose has its thorn, for example. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Makes sense. The concept is there. It's a true thing. Roses have thorns. Like that's a thing. Um, so like that, something like that makes sense. And there's a reason that there's literally like a solid classic rock song that'll just be living forever that is called Every Rose Has Its Thorn. You know what I mean? Like it's sayings
Yes.
like that are just like that spark some of the coolest little creative ventures for sure.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a favorite like little, not to put you on the spot, but like do you have
Oh
like a little
yeah.
like one like that you think like to you like just comes to mind when we're talking about this, or like is one that you've like written about in the past that you're like that's the
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, there's a song I wrote called My Whole Life, and it was actually written it's a song like I wrote for my cousin, who's literally more like a big sister for me.
Mm-hmm.
And she had this was like a few years ago I wrote it, but she had at the time just gotten engaged, and I remember in her caption on Instagram she put, "Of course I'll marry you. I've only been waiting my whole life." And just like that little fragment, that
Oh,
my whole life, it just sparked a song idea, because I'm kind of like, whenever, no matter what age you find the person you're gonna spend your life with, no matter what it is, even if it's 18 versus like 44, like any age, I was like, yeah, it always is gonna feel like you've been waiting your whole life for this, no matter what time, like when you find it and stuff. And so yeah, she loves that song. I like sent it to her for like anniversary or something, and she loved it, which was really nice. But yeah, I told her, I was like, yeah, you inspired this. I'm like, just that little fragment, just it flipped a switch, and I just started writing. So
I mean that's like again a nice little story as to kind of
yeah,
where things started and went, and um
yeah.
yeah, that's neat. I like that. If you had to create a genre around your style of music, what would you call it? Like
Like
something
just like,
like not define it based on current genre
okay.
things. Like if you were to make a genre of one that is just you, what are we calling it? See, like I said, this is one of those questions that not everybody likes, but it's a fun one.
It is fun because it's got my wheels spinning and trying to think of something that I would call it. My gosh. I'm not going to call it Maddie, because that would just be kind of
Well, and there's other
weird.
Maddies in the world, so
Yeah,
that
that's the
wouldn't even just be
thing.
you.
No. Oh gosh.
Something that would give a little hint as to what to expect as well. Like like when you say like
Yeah.
pop, you know what you're getting. You say rock, you
Oh
know what you're
yeah.
getting. But like,
Mhm.
what are we narrowing this down into?
Yeah. You're saying me think. It's like I've always, gosh, this is so hard.
The genre question
Because
is hard enough as it is, but I just decided to level it up and make
yeah.
you create something from scratch. So
Hmm.
sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. So, oh gosh. I trying to think.
I won't hold you to
I
it. It's not there's no
okay.
wrong answer. You don't have to like if you say this now, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be like 5 years later, be like, is it still that? Because
It's still
that's
that.
just not how this
Yeah.
works. Just
Gosh. Yeah, like I always like, hmm. Does it have to be like one word, or it could just
It
be
can
kind
be
of
whatever you want it to
whatever,
be.
you know?
I had somebody make up a word, so
Oh,
it's
really?
yeah. Not to open another door for you or anything, but
Okay, well, yeah. You know, let's just go with, you know, mm, I don't know, 90s girl feels. Let's just I love the 90s, but it's
Mhm.
also like I feel like my styles like definitely maybe today 90s feels. I don't know
Okay.
because
No,
I
that's an
feel like it's
acceptable
like
response.
today. Yeah, because it's like
It's like
today's music. It's
modernized.
like modernized, but then it's like
Still
I
got
always
that
feel like I've
older vibe.
like little like old vibe kind of like that 90s
Hmm.
feel and stuff. So yeah, let's go with that for now. So because
That's
I could spend hours thinking about it.
we might
So
be here a while. Yeah. No, yeah, like I mean, it's just a question for fun.
it's
You know what
funny.
I
Yeah.
mean? It's just a
Yeah.
thought provoker, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
What about the 90s do you think ties like what is it about your music that makes you want to tie in the 90s? Let me put it that way. Like
Yeah.
what do you
I
think the
think
connection is there?
I think for me, like especially over the past like year or two, I've really been influenced by a lot of 90s music
Hmm.
and especially like artists like Alanis Morissette, like
Love her.
Cranberries. Oh gosh, yes, love
Love
her so
her.
much. And so and it was and I think too a lot of the times how I like I don't want to say how I tend to sing, I try to like implement kind of her a little bit with how I sing and stuff.
Okay.
So I think kind of almost like maybe just kind of the way like how I like sing and stuff, like certain songs, like I kind of implement a lot of that 90s girl sort of like how they sing their songs and stuff. I don't
Okay.
know if that really makes sense,
No, it makes sense.
but yeah, but then in today like a pop today's thing. So
Right.
yeah, that's kind of like how I would tie it back. And then
Yeah.
of course, like I love 90s clothing and stuff. I always say Rachel Green is my fashion icon and will probably continue to be for a while.
I
So
love that. That's funny.
yeah.
That's funny because I've been told before that, and I don't know that I believe this as much, but there was one of my friends that was convinced that my mom looked very much like Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, I kind of see it, but I was also at that age where I
Yeah.
was like, whoever has the same haircut as my mom is going to be the one that I think looks like my mom.
Yes.
Like the
Yeah.
face doesn't really matter. So, at
Yeah.
that point,
Hmm.
but, I was told that at one point and I was like, well, that's definitely a compliment because look at Jennifer Aniston, you know? Um,
Yeah, it's Jennifer Aniston.
like,
Like,
come on now.
Yeah.
You can't put her in a sentence and it be an insult. It's just not a thing.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it's
but yes,
impossible.
Rachel Green is an icon. Yeah.
Yes.
Team Rachel all the way. Um, is there a release that you think is the best embodiment of who you are as an artist in the way of you have the opportunity to show someone one of your songs, one song and one song only,
Hmm.
and you want to basically use that as the opportunity to convince them to be a fan of your music, to stream more of your stuff, to jump on board, et cetera, et cetera. What song do you show them to convince them I should be your next favorite artist?
Yeah.
Put it that way.
I Yeah, I think for me, the song that I always will like show and I still like promote it and use it is a song that I released back in 2020 called War with Myself. it was a song that um I wanted to release a song that would be like an inspirational anthem for those struggling with mental health.
Hmm.
I wanted to inspire people to know like it's okay to not be okay. And as a person, I'm a huge advocate for mental health. And I always try to encourage people who are struggling to know that, their feelings are valid. And, um, and I think that's kind of where it comes from. I want to write music that makes people feel less alone. And I think that song is one where it's like this, that was the purpose. I wanted to like help people feel like they weren't the
Hmm.
only ones who are struggling through something, and that they like to give them hope, I think for sure. But yeah, that's the song that I would say I would always show people.
I think that, I mean, I, can't, you say war with myself. I don't hear it in my head. I'm sure I've heard it before listening to your stuff, but, just based on the concept of like, just that song title in itself is very suggestive of clearly what it is about. You know what I mean? It seems
Hmm.
very mental health esque. And being that you already kind of touched on the whole not wanting people to be alone thing, like that is clearly like embodied within your artistry, embodied within your songs themselves. So that feels like not even if it's not from a true like sonic standpoint, the middle
Oh
ground
yeah.
of all of your stuff, content wise, we're right on the money, you know?
Yeah.
If that's, I mean, especially even if like all of your other songs aren't about that, you can't be a one
Yeah.
trick pony, but
Yeah.
it's clearly like that's like you said, an embodiment of what your whole kind of purpose as an artist is, which I think is the best way to approach that in the sense of like you
Yeah.
want to showcase not just the song that's going to be, a nice middle point between the two ends of the spectrum on your different releases, but you want to have it be something that's representative of you as an artist, you
Yeah.
know? So, because I've said before and I'll say it again, people will come for the music, but they will stay for the artist. So if you're selling them on who you are as
Yeah.
an artist in that one song, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
So,
That's so true.
um, not to get up on my soapbox or anything.
No, no,
Um,
you're good.
um, yeah. Um, if you had to pick two or three artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who would you
Okay.
choose? I feel like I can already expect one
Ooh.
answer, but I don't
uh,
know. I don't know. I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
you're waiting.
I'm waiting.
Let's see if you're right. I always say so, and this is even based off of what like personally who like I've been inspired by, but then also who I've like heard different, you always hear feedback of what
Hmm.
people think. And I'm
Think you
like, yeah, I
sound
can see
like.
that. Yeah. Yeah, like, oh yeah, I could see that. Um, one of my honestly, like my music recently over the past like year, I would say like Maggie Rogers has been a huge
Mm,
influence. I really love her like style and everything. Like her last album is so good. I love it so much. Another person I would say I've gotten Selena Gomez quite a bit, and I think too
interesting.
because I think too with she's a huge advocate for mental health, and like
Mm,
she does portray that a lot with some of her songs. So that, and then I do get like I would say probably Taylor Swift, especially with like her lyricism, like
okay.
the way she's a storyteller. Um, I would say those three as far. I would say those three probably for sure. Yeah.
We'll keep Alanis Morissette as an honorable mention
Yes.
from the earlier
Yes.
question.
Yeah, she's still it's like so hard to pick three sometimes because it's like you can find inspiration in so many different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I will say probably Alanis would be there too. So,
Yeah. I've tried answering that question myself. I've like gone through like
oh
the
yeah.
questions occasionally before and I'm like, what would my answers be to my own podcast questions? And the three changes like all the time. There's a few that kind of like
Yes,
hang
yeah.
in there pretty relatively, but then
Mm-hmm.
there's like it's like that third one. It's just like when you get to that third spot, it's like you can't leave all these other guys out, you know? You gotta
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
everybody deserves their place on the team. So you
Yeah.
just can't leave them behind.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a hard question because
It's
it's
so
either
hard.
like hard to narrow it down or it's hard to really think about it in a way of like who really kind of like sounds like what I like a component of what I'm doing, you know? because everybody does
Yeah.
different stuff, even if you're in that
Yeah.
same like neighboring space and you like
Yeah.
very much write like so and so or take a lot of inspiration from so and so. It's like
Yeah.
to somebody else that might not even be the, it's crazy.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's crazy because like even so there are some people who like they've been like, oh, like you sound kind of like so and so. And I was like, oh, I would have never like felt like it wouldn't have been something that crossed my mind. But it's
Yeah,
just
it's
crazy what
interesting.
people will kind of pull different things from. So
Because you never like, because like maybe they listen to that person a lot and you don't, or vice
yeah.
versa. Or it's like maybe
Mm-hmm.
they're not as versed in that person, so then they
That's
think that
true.
you
Yeah.
sound like that. There's so many
Yeah.
possibilities, which
There's
just
so many
creates
possibilities.
a problem for that exact question. But we're here, we're answering it anyway. It's
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just have to keep a running list, and then just like every like week or
Yeah.
so, we change the main three.
Yeah.
Give everybody their fair share of playing time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
For sure.
um, what is an outside passion of yours that you feel impacts who you are as an artist? Do I know where this is going?
Probably like an outside passion.
Can be literally anything. It's just not like music specific.
Yeah. Like I think especially an outside passion. I really like I love being creative.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing too, and I mean it kind of plays with like, kind of being an artist, but um I love like editing like photos and videos and like
Mm.
being creative that way.
In a visual way.
Um in a visual way. Yeah, I would say like whenever I have like a new release coming out and I'm like, "Oh, we have to like record new videos or like edit new photos and stuff." Like I enjoy like sitting on my laptop and be like, "Oh, cool. Let's like see how we can make this look really cool
Mm.
and stuff." Like I that's probably another like passion that another thing that I really enjoy doing. And um yeah,
No,
another
I
big
mean,
one.
I think you've got a level up almost, or a leg up, I guess is the better way to put it. Um, because the visual is, it's like to a lot of people, it's just, I got to do another thing,
Yeah.
to check off all the boxes on like this new
Yeah.
release and stuff like that. Like some people, it's very much a chore. It's, it's just one of the things that comes along with the whole independent situation that
Mm-hmm.
is
Yeah.
just like it's just another thing I gotta do, so if it's something that you enjoy, that makes the job that much easier, because then it's not like, oh,
Yeah.
I have to do this or I have to do that. It's like,
Yeah.
nah, I get to do this because we just
Mm-hmm.
did that. So social
Yeah.
media must be your friend then.
Yeah. We have a love-hate relationship
Oh, I
sometimes.
think
So, but
everybody does. If they
I
don't
think
have just a
everyone
hate
does
relationship, it's a love-hate relationship. Nobody just loves it. It's
love-hate.
just not a thing.
No. No.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah. Me and the algorithm have some beef these days, so
oh,
it'd be like
yeah.
that. Um,
Mm-hmm. I
yeah.
feel you.
But no, I mean, do you take kind of like a similar approach from one project to the next in the way that you kind of approach the visual, or is it just kind of like how like is there a idea formulation process, or do we just kind of wing it every time?
I it's funny because like I always feel like whenever like I record the song, like once I know really where the direction's going with the song,
Hmm.
like a lot of times I'm like, okay, this is like I say I'm like I have this like image in my mind of like what I want, and that can even be down to like what I'm wearing, like for the
Mm.
cover photo and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and like okay, no, this is what I want, like this is what I see. And so then then I really go and try to take that idea and of course like take you take different poses, takes different shots and stuff like that, and eventually sometimes like what you think you're going to use isn't what you actually use for like the cover photo per se.
Right.
um I recently released a song called Have You Seen My Friends, and I remember when I was recording it, like I knew kind of, I was like, I want to have like a cardboard sign that says Have You Seen My Friends. I want to
I've seen
be
this.
and these black tall boots. Like I had this like almost like I was like, I wanted to be like 1920s, like kind of paperboy, but turned modern
Ooh.
day. Like, like that's what I
Hmm.
thought. Cause I'm like, yeah, like you're like, you see people standing on the edge of places and like saying, like, hey, like, have you seen this and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, like, have you seen my friends? Like, it was just like a very strong visual that I had. And I was like, I've got to go with it.
Oh yeah.
And so, yeah, I really think that's like every song I just kind of try to like use what the song is kind of about in a way
Mhm.
and really draw inspiration from that to create like the visuals and everything.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, if it works, I mean, there's a reason that music is so involved in like visual media and
Hmm.
shows, in films, and
Yeah.
just in videos in general. Like, it paints the picture more vividly. Like, yes, your music video is going to tell you exactly what's going on. The
Hmm.
cover art's going to probably give you a vibe sense. It's not going to be like
Yeah.
aggressive and dark if the song is like upbeat and happy and like that kind of thing. Like, it's going to be at least somewhat representative, but at the same time it's like the music's kind of doing all the work here, and then the visuals just
Yeah.
kind of add into it. Like,
Yeah.
that just it's just kind of putting all of your ducks in a line.
Hmm.
It's enforcing what we already know is going on. So to have that
Yeah.
sort of like plan in place just makes things that much easier, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does. Yeah. Yeah. Because yeah, and like I said, it's kind of something it's fun for me to like think of like visual, like like you said, it's kind of like the music is like going to tell the story, like you're going to listen to it,
Mhm.
but it's like it's kind of cool to give like a visual aspect and
Oh yeah.
figure out how you want to present it. um I, I find that fun. So like it's
It's
enjoyable for me to think about different ways to do that and stuff.
it's like
So
the gift wrap and the music is the
yes.
present,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's a very good analogy for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um what is the ideal listening scenario for someone to consume your music in? Like, what's the setting that you think this is the vibe? This is where my songs are the soundtrack to your life. What's the
Like
situation?
where I think they would like listen or like how can
Where,
I yeah.
situational, whatever the vibe is.
Yeah, I think for me it's like I can really see it like especially like I feel like driving in the car, like driving in your car, windows down. I know that's such a basic
I get
answer,
that
but then
answer a lot, but I think it's
but
valid
then
for almost
it's so
everyone.
valid. I think the other thing too is I feel like some of my songs, like I'm like,
Mhm.
what, I could see people like, just like turning it up and doing like a dance party in their living room and just letting loose and stuff. But yeah, for sure, I think the car, I could definitely see that or like just jamming out in your living room for sure with
I get
some wine or coffee or whatever you want to be drinking,
well, maybe not wine
whatever.
in the car, but like,
Yeah, not in the car. Swap coffee in the car, wine at home.
There we
So
go.
we'll
We'll
do
keep it
that.
legal here.
We'll keep it legal.
We'll keep it legal, and but that's funny. No, I do get the car a lot. I do get that as an answer a lot, but I'm like, there's not a bad song to listen to in the car. It just
Hmm.
depends on time of day, like if it's raining or if it's like bright and sunny, and
Yeah.
then like who's in the car, and also just
Oh
like what's
yeah.
the vibe, if you're
Yeah.
if you're having a rough one and it's pouring rain outside, you might not want a happy-go-lucky track,
Yeah.
but
No.
save that for when it's 75 degrees and sunny and you can drive at like 45 miles an hour with the windows down.
Hmm. Yeah.
Then we're set.
Yeah.
So car
That's
is a
that.
very
Yeah.
versatile place for that.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
What is it that you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
I think it's just kind of just maybe my perspective on certain things. And I kind of say that it's like trying not to like toot my own horn or anything like that, but
No, I mean, you
it's
can
kind
if
of
you want.
yeah, yeah. I think too, it's just I've always loved helping people,
Hmm.
and I think especially with my music, I always try to do that and write about things that both like I've gone through or I know that people have gone through and try to help them through that. Build this community where people can feel just supported. And um, I don't know if some people want to like do it for themselves or anything like that, but I think, I feel like I just really like I write music both for myself, but I really love writing music for people.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's something that makes me stand out a little bit, just trying to help people through my music.
Being more intentional with it.
Yeah. Hmm.
No,
Yeah.
and I think because the thing about music, and you kind of touched on this earlier with your like concert scenario thing, is it's very much like whether we are writing textbook detail for detail, our
Yeah.
own lived experience, or it is just a generalization of one kind of thought or idea. The thing is there's a reason that music is a communal kind of
Yeah.
space, because it is like I might have experienced something and written a song about it, but you could listen to it and feel like I totally get that. Like that totally
Yeah.
like basically asking, did you write this like about me? Like that kind of thing. Because
Yeah.
the human experience is a very universal thing. We experience a lot of the
Oh
same
yeah.
things, whether it's detail for detail the same or not. Like a breakup is a breakup, loss is loss, success is success. Everybody
Yeah.
views things in a little bit of a different way, and obviously the individual relationships are different, but the
Yeah.
overall emotive experience is the same. And so even if you
Hmm.
are writing detail for detail your own story, it is not just simply for you. Even if you don't intend for it to be. Clearly, like the intention is there. It's intended
Yeah.
to be for said other people. But even if it wasn't, it could be.
Yeah.
But what kind of like you're right, what kind of separates it is you're doing it with that intention. Some people do that, but not
Yeah.
everybody does that. So kind of already having that in mind, you can almost shape what you're already doing, you know.
Yeah.
So we gotta love a good, people intentioned idea.
Yeah.
So what impact do you want to have with your music, with your artistry as a whole, the whole shebang?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it kind of goes into like what I just said, I want to just build a community where people can support each other and just, I think um just know that they're not the only ones going through this, that they can kind of even, like we were saying, like, maybe the details aren't all the same, but it's like the feeling is still kind of mutual. And I really want to like I really just want to build that community for people and like just a space where they're free to feel how they want to feel and know that they're not the only ones that feel that way, even if the details are all different. That's really what I'm wanting to create with my music.
And a good purpose and intention behind it. Like we've said, that's what music is kind of all about. So like still having that in mind and being intentional
Yeah.
with it is just that much better. Music, if
Yeah.
music is anything, it is a vibe enhancer slash adjuster
Yeah.
slash whatever else. It's music is like for the vibes, whether they're good or bad.
Oh
Music,
yeah.
that's what it's all about. So kind of contributing to that in an intentional way is great. So
Yeah.
um I think that brings us to the final question, which is
Ooh.
ultimately the concept behind the podcast, which is
Okay.
why music? That's it. Just why music?
Why music? I think, I mean, I feel like I'll be a broken record by this point, but um I think just like I've always just I just feel like there's nothing that music kind of can't do.
Facts.
And, it has the power to bring people together. It has the power to, like I have playlists of, or like certain songs that, like, if I'm feeling down about myself, I'm going to put this playlist in, or I'm going to put this song on, and I feel instantly a little bit better. And you know, I think it's just one of the most powerful things that we have to bring us all together and to just help us get through day by day.
Yeah, I mean, music is essentially a tool in toolbox, but it's like the biggest tool in the toolbox, at
Yeah.
least in my opinion. I
Oh,
might be a
for
little
sure.
biased. Might be a little bit biased. There's a little
A
bit,
little bit.
um but it can be like, you can put on sad music when you're having a bad day and just let
Hmm.
everything kind of happen. You
Yeah.
can put on some good vibe music when you're like already vibing and it'll just boost the mood. There's pregame playlists and workout mixes, and
Yes.
there's music for every kind of situation. Like there's like coffee shop music is already kind of like it's assumed kind of its own little genre, even though it's not really,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
everything has its own little scenario. So it's just, you're basically building the soundtrack to your own life, whether you intend to or not.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I mean, and to be able to be a part of like the creative side of things and actually just like not just consume, but create, we're some lucky individuals, to be able
Yeah.
to do
Hmm.
those things. But yeah, I mean, it all comes back to the greater purpose and the greater intention, which, is very much there. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. Check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.